So I don't know if you guys remember, but back in the 1990s, there was a very effective marketing campaign, I'm assuming it was here as well, that it was put on by evangelical Christians, asking the question, what would Jesus do? You guys remember that? Some of you are old enough to remember that, maybe not everybody. The premise was the kids would wear it as a bracelet around their wrist with the acronym WWJD, what would Jesus do? And the premise was that they would ask that question of themselves before taking an action that might have some sort of a personal consequence to them. In other words, to stop and to consider the question and then decide their course of action. Now, of course, what was kind of funny about it is that Jesus of Nazareth, a first century Jew living in Palestine, would probably make far different choices than a North American youth of the 1990s. I mean, come on, let's face it. Most of the moral behaviors of our 20th century have been put upon us by man's interpretation of what Jesus might possibly do. But it was a far different time and a far different place, and so who really knows what Jesus would do, right? Are you following me? Yeah? Are you out there? Can I see you? Yeah. And it was a very effective marketing campaign. The idea had a lot of appeal. In fact, I was a student of metaphysics in the early 90s, and science of mind, this teaching, and I remember being a little bit jealous that we didn't have this cool and pithy kind of like phrase to help us make decisions, right? Sure, we could go within, commune with your higher self, and ask the questions, but that's just not got quite the same pizzazz as what would Jesus do, right? So what I did back then was that I tweaked the phrase just a little bit so that I could use the idea of it on my own. I think a lot of people did that because I've seen it. I've seen people use it a lot. And even to this day, I will fall back on that phrase when I'm faced with challenging times or with a difficult decision. And the phrase, of course, is my talk title today, not what would Jesus do, but what would love do? What would love do here? What would love do in this situation? And you know what? It's basically the same idea because Jesus taught about love all the time. I love this particular phrase from 1 John 4:18. Dear friends, let us love one another, for love comes from God. Yeah? Doesn't it make you wonder how a message like that has become so perverted in the way that people kind of interpret what it is that Jesus taught? Doesn't it make you wonder, like, what happened? Yeah. So the reason that I resurrected my good old phrase, what would love do, resurrected, get it? It was a joke. But the reason I wanted to talk about it today was because of what's going on in the world right now. Or at least what's being portrayed as to what's going on in the world right now. Because I believe, and raise your hand if you agree with me, that in spite of the divisiveness that is being shown in the media right now, I still believe that there is more love than hate in the world. Yeah. That there's more kindness than cruelty. Yeah. That there's more compassion than meanness. Yeah. There's more acceptance than bigotry. Yeah, absolutely. It's just that negativity and hatred and meanness and bigotry and fighting sells more advertising. Yes. Yeah? It grabs more attention. It's more titillating. Yes! And because of that, that's what we see all the time. So that's what we start to believe is normal. It isn't normal, but it's what we believe is normal. And because we've seen it streaming into our eyes all the time, we think that that's the way the world is. But the world isn't that, it's just what we're being told. And there's a little part of us that is real fascinated by disaster. I mean, just look at what happens when there's an accident or there's police activity on the road. Most people don't drive by and wish people well. I know everybody here does, but you know what? There's a lot of those looky-loos, right? A lot of those gawkers want to see what's happened. Give me the blood and guts. What's that Don Henley song? Give us dirty laundry. Yeah? You remember that? Okay. So, and I have to confess something. You know, I confess things to you people all the time. I am more of a CSI girl than a Touched by an Angel girl. I like those crime dramas. I really do. It's more entertaining to me. So there is a tendency that we have to kind of like the drama. You know what I'm talking about? And then there's the real life drama that is playing out in the homes of people everywhere. And that is the U.S. presidential election. Now, we may laugh, but our laugh is more a laugh of horror than it is of humor. Wouldn't you agree? Yes. Yeah. To think that one of the greatest countries in the world, one of the countries that the entire world wants to emulate, has this gong show of a presidential election going on, it boggles my mind. Are there any other Americans voting? Any other Americans voting in the election here? No? Okay, I am the Lone Ranger here. And yet, what I am finding is that people are absolutely fascinated by this, even here in Canada. That surprised me. I got to tell you, frankly, it surprised me. I've been thinking you guys would be like celebrating universal health care instead of being. But what I'm finding with people, myself included, I'm talking to myself here, is that we watch these debates so that we can hear the zingers and the reactions and the insults and the one-upmanship, and we troll the internet and get into arguments with perfect strangers. And we watch the news and we look at the news sites because there's so much drama. And we become addicted to drama. But the problem is, this is not a 60-minute TV show. These aren't actors and this isn't a script. This is real life with a small r. This is real life. These are real people. This is real issues. And it's scary. So for me, it begs the question, what would love do here? What would love do? In other words, do we join in the drama? Do we join in the ain't it awfuls and the us against thems and the good guys against the bad guys? And do we perpetuate the discord? Or do we stop and look at the other guy and his values and his beliefs and his perceptions, and instead of seeing insurmountable differences, instead see our commonalities and our sameness and our oneness? In other words, do we see the other guy from a place of separateness or of oneness, of connection, of love? Ernest Holmes, our founder, had this to say about love. See if it makes sense for today. Love is the grandest healing and drawing power on earth. It is the very reason for our being. No one can swing out into the universal without love, for the whole universe is based upon it. How do we know that we live in a loving universe? Because we love, because we experience love, and because it feels normal and natural. That's how we know. And yet, we get in situations like what's going on right now, and it's really, really hard. It's I'm saying maybe just me. I'm finding it hard because wherever you fall in your opinions, it's hard to be loving to someone who you believe in your heart of hearts is simply wrong. And yet what's interesting is that person believes that you are just as wrong. So it's all about perception. Perception that's born out of our life's experiences, our beliefs, and how we see the world. So the truth is no one is right and no one is wrong. We just have different perceptions and opinions. John Moorhead, I love this quote. He says, your opinion is your opinion. Your perception is your perception. Do not confuse them with the facts and truth. Wars have been fought and millions have been killed because of the inability of men to understand that everybody has a different viewpoint. Problem is that some people equate wrong or disagreement with hatred or anger. I've seen friendships, I've seen family relationships end because they don't agree on politics and religion. They end. Wouldn't it be preferable, it certainly is preferable in my life, to understand this idea of perception and viewpoint and love the other guy anyway? Love your neighbor as yourself. One of the very famous quotes, it's actually attributed to Mother Teresa, but it was written by Dr. Kent Keith in an essay called The Paradoxical Commandments. And that quote is, people are illogical, unreasonable, and self-centered. Love them anyway. Yeah? Anybody relating to this?
Oh, yeah.
Now, you're not loving them anyway because you're weak, or you're unsure, or you lack confidence, but because you recognize that underneath all of it, we are one. We all come from the same source. We all exist within the same life with a capital L. And the essence of that life is love. Ernest Holmes said, there is but one ultimate impulsion in the universe. This impulse is love. This love is more than an emotional sentiment, although it must include all such emotional sentiments. It is the pure essence of divine givingness. The pure essence of divine givingness. Bring that in. Now, as I said, what precipitated today's talk is this election, this thing, this feeling of unsettledness that seems to be palpable right now. Am I the only one who's feeling it? Okay, I didn't think so. As I say, sometimes I equate it to, I say that it feels like there's a disturbance in the Force. If you're familiar with the Star Wars mythology, the Force, of course, is that the Force, of course. I'm just being around. So the Force is this collective consciousness of good that permeates everything. Remember Obi-Wan Kenobi, the Force is with you. That's what we're talking about here. And in the mythology, in those movies, when something happened that was unsettling or out of alignment with good, there was a disturbance in the Force. Remember when he said that? Well, that's true in our lives, true too, is that when something is unsettling or out of alignment with good, we all feel it, subtly, and sometimes not so subtly. But the rub is, because we're all part of the force, not only do we feel it, but we are also party to it. In other words, when we allow those feelings of negativity or of unsettledness to affect us, we're contributing to it. You understand what I'm saying? When I look at the news and I feel that negativity and I feel all that ickiness happening and it starts to make my blood boil, I'm adding to the fire. I'm adding to the negativity. I'm adding to the unsettledness. On the other hand, when I remember to raise my thoughts and to ask instead, what would love do? How would love feel? What would love say? How would love respond? I'm helping to raise the conversation. I'm helping to raise the vibration. Now, would it be preferable if to completely erase the negativity from my heart and mind? You bet. You bet. I would love that. And I don't know how practical that is right now, because none of us live in a bubble. And the divisiveness seems to be everywhere. So how about, instead of just getting rid of it all, how about we just shift it a little bit for now? Yes? What if we shift it just a little bit and take a different tack? So I'm going to give you a tool right now. This was came to me on Facebook, of course, from Dr. Richard Rogers, who is of Unity of Phoenix, our kissing cousins. And he posted a prayer challenge, and it really spoke to me. He wrote, "I've come to the astonishing realization that watching more news will not help. Spending more time in front of the TV or reading articles online is not moving the world forward in any way. Enough. I need to stop and trust God. I believe that I can always do more in prayer than worrying about the outcome. So here is the challenge," he wrote. "For every minute you spend absorbed in the news, spend 2 minutes in prayer for the greater good." For every minute you spend absorbed in the news, spend 2 minutes in prayer for the greater good. Can you see how effective that would be? It doesn't say stop watching the news completely, stop engaging in political discourse, stop having those conversations. It simply says give more attention to your spiritual habits than you do your political habits. Commune more with your spiritual thoughts than with your worldly thoughts. 2 to 1. Not bad, hey? Not bad. Because, it's my last and favorite Ernest Holmes quote, "Love overcomes both hate and fear. However, love does not overcome hate and fear through controversy, argument, or force, but by a subtle power of transformation, transmutation, and sublimation. As light overcomes darkness, as the presence of heat causes the coolness of a room to change until it is warm and comfortable, so the radiant action of love and peace dissipates fear, hate, and confusion." Take a deep breath. Because we're going to practice right now. Steve, if you would. You know how this goes. I want you to, if you would, get into a comfortable position. Feel the chair beneath you. Put your attention on your breathing. And find yourself becoming more and more open. More and more relaxed. More and more settled. And now bring to mind something or someone that you love. Your children, your grandchildren, your spouse, your significant other, a pet, the mountains, the ocean, the prairie sky. Just bring that to mind and feel the love and allow it to begin to spin and become even more. Allow yourself to get filled up with this feeling of love. Feel it building and building. That sense of love, that sense of connection. Allow it to fill you up, spinning so profoundly that it becomes a light. And allow that light to build. Allow that light to build so that your whole chest area is filled with love. Your whole being is experiencing love. And allow that to simply be that light of love. Your love light, allow it to shine. And with that love light still shining, bring to mind something or someone that is distressing you. Whether it's the current political climate, something more personal. And it's okay to feel it right now. You're absolutely safe. And with that love light still spinning and light and shining, and this idea coming into your mind, ask the question, what would love do? What would love do in this situation? How would love respond? Allow your love light to shine in this situation. The light dissipates the darkness. Continue asking, what would love do here? Allow it to transform. Allow it to dissipate. Allow love to be your decision. Until that feeling of unsettledness has been transformed. Breathe into it. If there's a vestige of it left, ask again, what would love do? And as that feeling of unsettledness is fading away, diminishing the light of it, the energy around it, shrinking, becoming a non-issue. Leaving only your love light. And now begin to become aware once again of the room. Begin to feel the chair beneath you. Wiggle your fingers and toes. Take in a deep breath. And when you're ready, open your eyes. Be here now. And just take a glance around the room and see the other love lights shining. Thank you all for being here. I love you, and so